Hey guys, Josh Spoon here with the Producer's Kitchen, and this is the last video in Max for Live Madness. So I'm about to go for a nice long walk. And this video is very important. It's about the live object model. The live object model allows you to control Ableton Live with Max for Live. In this video you'll learn how to make 0 dB max, which allows you to stop the track volume from going above 0. It's something that I've wanted forever, and once I learned that I could do it, I definitely created it, and now I'm sharing it with you. Also, there's 0 dB max plus, which allows you to control 16 tracks. Alright, cool, so let's get into it. To make it 0 dB max, we're going to need to know a couple of things. Since the point of 0 dB max is stopping live from going above 0 dB or unity gain, we need to do a couple of things in Max for Live. And we're going to be using something we haven't talked about before, which is the live object model. So live object model allows Max to be able to navigate through the inner workings of live. So that's why it's called an object model. It's going through and categorizing all the objects, the clips, the scenes, the sends, the returns, the tracks, MIDI, everything, and giving you IDs and information and also ways to track and find the paths to all of these clips and scenes and things like that. So live object model is very powerful. So to accomplish that, we're going to have to dynamically find what track the device is on. Then we're going to navigate to that track and dynamically in real time change the volume setting. All of this done with inside of the Max for Live patch. Another important thing to know is we're going to be making a sub patch, which allows us to bundle up a bunch of objects into a single patch. A sub patch allows us to bundle up a bunch of objects that are working for one common goal into one patch. So for example, we're going to have one that's called get track, and that inside of that get track sub patch is going to be a bunch of objects that find out how to get the track ID. And lastly, we're going to use variables, and variables are pretty much stand-ins for information that's going to be dynamically generated when you're actually using it. So the variable we're going to be using is $1, and that's going to be held in place for whenever we figure out what the track ID is, and that $1 will then have the track ID to be able to send out a message that will tell us to control the volume. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is get a max audio effect, because the max audio effect will live on any track, return, MIDI, and audio track. I'm going to hit the edit button, open this guy up. We'll leave all this stuff alone right now. But first I'm going to grab all the objects. So what we're going to need is what's called a load bang. So whenever this device loads, it's going to send out a bang. We're also going to make a button, but we're going to do a live button. So I'm going to do L and then button. I'll put this guy so tiny. There we go. Put it right next to it. Next we're going to have a message, and we'll populate that in a second. Then we're going to have live.path, and you can see it up to the right, the reference, but we'll talk about it more in a second. Just a moment. Get path. This is a message that's going to be sent through this trigger. If you don't remember the trigger, definitely go check out the Velocity Raptor mini tutorial I did. Next is a list, which if you remember the trigger, the list is actually first, then get path. So I'll throw that guy there. Then we're going to do another object, live dot object, and that'll be explained also in a second. And then unpack, and then also print. So we're going to print this out into the Max console. Alright, cool. So going off of what we talked about just a second ago, this is what we're going to use to get the track ID. So for now, I'm going to use this button, and I'm going to put it to the message. There's no message in here yet, but what we're going to do is we're going to say path and you see it comes up as an auto-populate, as an auto-complete, this underscore device. So why are we putting in path this underscore device? Well, that's what's needed to communicate with live.path. If we look at live.path, it says navigate to objects inside of the application. That's what we need to do. We need to navigate to this current device, and from this current device we'll then be able to figure out what track we are currently on, because we could pick up and drag this to different tracks. And we also don't want to just put a static number and then it can't go anywhere else. It's always changing the volume of track 1, let's say. So if we scroll down, we've got a message that we can send called path. So it says same as goto. There's a goto one that says goto somewhere. So what we're saying is we have a path. So if I scoot this over so you can see it, it also lists, says same as goto but limited to absolute paths that start with a root object name like live underscore app, live underscore set, this underscore device. And that's what we have. Absolute path to this device. So we're going to take that message of path, this underscore device, and we're going to send that to live.path. And we're going to just take the first inlet and drop that to print. I'm going to hit this button and we'll see it says print. It prints an ID of 9. So we get that message back. So we're using the first one here because we're just following this object. We're just getting the ID. I'll throw this guy away. Now let's take the first outlet and put that to the trigger that will then trigger get path and the list. So let's connect both of these to print. And we'll trigger this out. So we'll see first comes the ID, then comes the path. And if you see it has an L here for list. This ID 9 can be broken up by using a list. Since there's a space, this would be list output 1, list output 2. Could also, if I wanted to do a message and then say boom $2. Then I could do print. So I'll say 9. I change that to $1 and you see it says ID. So that's what the list does, and I could break up the list that way. Or I can use unpack as well. Okay, cool. So this live.object, let's look at it. This guy performs operations on live objects. So this is taking this information that we've got, gives the path of this device, then here's the ID, and we're saying get the path. So once we get the ID, we can then say, hey, send him, whoop, it's already connected. Send that path through here, and it's going to trigger, then it's going to bang out the ID 9 or whatever the ID of this device is in your project. Then I'm just going to connect these two. So it's going to send the list. It's going to say, hey, so ID 9, get the path. And live.object is going to find that path for you. So now let's put that to print. So here's our path. Path, live set, then to tracks, then to track 2, and then that device is the first device, which for computers is 0. And if we look, get rid of this and that, we'll see I'm on track 2. There's no other device, so that's 0. If that's confusing to you, which I'm sure it is, I'm going to right click and hit reference. We'll go to the object, then actually we'll go to the live object model. So this is kind of the breakdown of how you can navigate inside of live. And if you've ever done coding, this is a little bit different from the way you would code. It was a little confusing at first. So, you know, I won't blame you if this, even if you watch this 5 times and it's a little confusing. All right, let's look at the path here. Let's scoot this over. Boom. One day I'll get a monitor. All right, so we have path. So we're saying we're going to go to path, live set. That goes into this song. And then we're looking for track, and the actual like navigation name is tracks. We also have visible tracks, master track, return tracks. And they all work as a track item. Then from track we go to devices, and then that's how we get there. So if we look inside of track, I just clicked on it and it gives you all the information you need to know. So it says live_set tracks n. So that means there's a number that can be used here. 0, 1, 104, however many tracks you have. So that's the way that you can navigate tracks. You can read all this documentation here. Here in the track you can then get or observe the clip slots. You can get or observe devices, check up on them. You can get the mixer information. So then if I go into mixer, I can then get the panning and volume and all that stuff. And that's all through the live object model, which you can see here. I went to track, then I went to device, and then here's mixer, volume, panning, all that stuff. So these are the objects, and then these are the things inside of that object that can be manipulated or read or observed. I hope that's helpful for you. Spend some time on this. As I'm doing this video, as you finish it, watch it again. I had to watch many videos and even take a class to kind of understand the live object model. And now I think I have a pretty good handle on it. Okay, so back to this guy. So we have the path that's being dynamically found for us. Cool. So I'm going to undo that. All we want to know is what the track number is. So I'm going to use unpack, and unpack can split all this stuff up. So I'm going to do path. So it's going to spit out path by itself, live_set by itself, track by itself, and then the list by itself. So I'll connect that to here. Just for the sake of ease, let's just make 4 messages here. That guy, this guy, Mr. Him, and Mr. Other guy. All right, cool. So I'm going to do this bang again. So we don't have, oh, I did L for list, and it should be I because it's a number. So there's more information we see. There's also device 0, but we don't care about that. So that's not in here. I could add that to the pack or the unpack. So there we go. Path, live set, split, tracks, 1. And to know this unpack is very helpful because in the future you may have something where you want to split stuff up, and this is an easy way to do it. So I'll toss this. I'll actually toss this as well. And we'll move print over. What I'm going to do is attach the load bang here. And then what I'm going to do is, since this now gets the current track, I'm going to make a subpatch. To do that, we're going to do Command Shift E. So it says P. That's the object to create a subpatch, and this I'm going to do get current track. Cool. And since it was already connected to something, it made an inlet for me. If I need to open it up, I can hold down Command and double click on it as long as it's the patch isn't locked, and we'll see there's an inlet. If you need to make an inlet, you can just do N inlet and make one. I need to make an outlet. So I'm going to do that guy there, then connect him. So if you see the load bang's already set up, I can then add my live.button so that it is exposed for presentation, because the patcher, you can't get the presentation mode. So that's coming in. I'm also going to open up Inspector, and I'm going to put a comment and annotation and hint so I'll know what to send in here. Send, bang, copy, paste, paste. Cool. Save, close. If I want to, I can even save as a snippet and then put your name there or whatever, you know, your initials, TPK, get current track. I typed it in, but I already have it, so I'm not going to do that. Then it would be here. Invert value, get tracks. I have a couple of different ones. And that's where that snippet would be, having that subpatcher. Alright, so let's just do print. Let's make sure it still works. You definitely want to try that before you start doing a bunch of stuff, and then you don't know where you went wrong. Cool, still prints out 1. Click delete. So I'm going to move this button if I can get it. I'm going to zoom in, Command plus. Line that up. Command negative. So now we got the track. Then what we want to do is we want to have another message. So with that, we're going to just set up a new path to navigate to the volume of the current track. So we have live, looks familiar, set, tracks, and we're going to use that $sign as a variable, and that $sign is going to be replaced with the number that comes out here dynamically. So we have mixer underscore device. So if you remember, I talked about how to get into volume. We looked at the live object model. We'll look at it in just a second. Volume, boom. Okay, live set, boom. Tracks, got it. Mixer underscore device. Got it. Cool. Under mixer underscore device, we have some options. We have volume as one of them. So I said volume. This is navigating the path. I'm going to plug it right into the first inlet to bang out this message while also populating the variable. We'll take the print and then see, 1, populated that. Cool, so we got that guy going, that works. Next thing we're going to do is do live.remote. Live.remote is super powerful, mega powerful. It allows you to real-time control parameters in live. So we have 2 inlets. This one's going to get the ID, and this one's going to get the value. Before we do that, we just realize we have a path here, but we don't have an ID. So we need to send that path to live.path so it can spit out an ID. And I'm going to use the middle because I want it to follow that path. And if I put it on another track, or actually if I move this device around, if I put something before it or after it, this will be able to figure out where it currently is. Okay, so let's use the print again, take a look, bang it. Okay, ID 6. So that's what the ID is for the volume on track 2. Next on this side, we're going to work on the volume. So what we're going to do is make a live dot slider. And let's do a couple of things. We'll go to Inspector, and let's just put volume. And then we'll name this volume. And you can come up with a clever name. I named it a little bit more cleverly in the final project. So if you ever use the live object model to find out what the current value is, you'll know that a volume slider in live goes from 0 to 1 and uses up to the hundredths. So for example, if the volume is at 0 dB, it's actually at 0.85. So that's why we need to, or we're going to work with floats. And you may be saying, well, you said it goes from 0 to 1, why are we doing 0 to 127? What I'm going to do next is use our good old friend scale. So what we have there already is not really relevant, because we're going to do 0 to 127. So we're going to do 0, float, 127, float. Then we're going to go from 0 to, like I said, 0.85. So that's going to cap it out. So we're able to drag the slider all the way up, but the value that comes out is only going to be up to what live sees as 0. So I'm going to drag this first outlet to here, and then let's just do a print on that. So I'm going to drag go to the Max console, you'll see all that information there. Drag. Scales everything. Nice and sweet for you. Then we're just going to take this guy and put it in live.remote. So that takes a value, this takes an ID. So now we can say, hey, get this. And let's change the volume. So let's save this guy, and sometimes, like I told you, it doesn't work right until you actually save it. We were working with an untitled document, so here we go. Cool. Can't go any higher, caps out. So now I can play a track. And I don't have to worry about peaking or clipping while I'm playing live or something like that. It'll only go up as high as I need it. Lastly, for this guy, we're going to make sure that our presentation is set up nicely. So I'm going to click presentation, nothing's there. So I'm going to select these two, right click, add to presentation. I'm going to right click on the actual patcher. And then I'm going to go to Inspect Window, and always overshoot it, open in Presentation, close that, boom. So now we've got volume, I can resize this, then I'll put, this guy here is used for a reset. If anything goes wrong, you can bang it and it'll find the track and everything for you again. I'll go here to edit or view. Oh, let me scoot it over. Device width. View, device width. Save. You can see that it's resized. It's a little off. Let's scoot it in a little bit. View. Oh yeah, there's a boundary to where it's not going to go any smaller in live. So I'll scoot that over. Bring that down. Cool. So there it is. Then I can put a little title on here too. I can comment 0 dB max. That's what I'm calling mine. Open up the format. Put the title in here, Command J, shrink that up. Take this. The Producer's Kitchen. That's too big. Take that down. size it up, Command J, save, looks good, close. And now I have a working 0 dB max. I also can Command K, hit 1, play it. Works just like any other device. Automate it. Everything works just the way you know it to work. Hope you guys enjoyed that video and that you learned a lot. I'm Josh Spoon with the Producer's Kitchen, and don't forget to always be creating. Peace.